It's lovely to be here in Paris this morning, and I'm delighted that Laurent and Hervé invited me back for a second time. So I have a challenge. I have 20 minutes. And my problem is that when I speak, I often get a bit excited and I speak quicker and quicker. And I appreciate that your English is a lot better than my French, so I will struggle to keep slow. If I go too fast, please tell me, raise your hand, and I will slow down. I'm sorry, I just get a bit excited when I'm speaking. Now, the subject today I'm going to talk about, at the last minute, I've changed my speech slightly because I realized I had a better presentation, a newer presentation, because I spoke here last year and I had something, and I wanted to say something fresh and new. And so I wanted to talk about emotion in B2B marketing. And I was thinking about this on the way. I was thinking this is a bit ironic because I'm from England, and in England we're not really known as being very emotional and very passionate, and whereas the French are known as being passionate and emotional people. So maybe you will understand this better than my colleagues do in England. But it's been a very big trend, a very big issue for us in B2B marketing in the UK for the last year, and it's been something which has become really important, and people are starting to understand more and more. And I think that as B2B marketers, we've always understood that emotion is important in marketing, but in B2B, it's been kind of difficult to understand how to use it, how important it is, and how relevant it is for us. But there's some new thinking and some new research which I hope has made this clearer and made this easier for everybody. So a little bit about me to begin with very quickly. We started as a magazine 10 years ago. Actually, it's 11 years now, but everything changed and we've got into other different things, other different types of business. We have a big website. We do a big awards program, and we do conferences and events like this one. We produce reports, and we do training. So we're trying to be an information provider for all of the B2B marketers' needs, and be there for everything that they need to understand. So we've been on a real journey in the last 10 years. And I think that you all will have been on this journey as well. I think you have to excuse some of these slides have come out slightly differently in the translation. So there has been a real. You will not have missed the fact that we have had a revolution in the last 5 years. The digital revolution has transformed everything about how we work, how we operate, how we communicate, how we talk to our buyers and our customers. And it really is a revolution which is continuing. It's not stopping. It's going to continue for a long time, and it affects everything that we do, and it has really, really significant impacts on marketers, as I'm sure you will all understand. And these have had some serious effects on what marketing looks like and how marketers practice what they do. And there's a few of these I want to talk about. And the first one, I think, is dehumanizing. Marketing has been a bit dehumanized by digital. Now, I know there are some wonderful technologies out there, including those of our sponsors here today. And I would not wish to say that their platforms are bad in any way. We use these technologies, and they're very, very good. But when you're disconnected from the customer, it's harder to really understand what it is that they think and how they react. And there's the subtleties or nuances, I'm not sure if these words translate directly, but of the human interaction are sometimes lost when we're moving entirely in a digital world. And that's something that we need to understand and always seek to work around. The other thing, a second thing that has happened as a consequence of this digital revolution is commoditization or homogenization. Everything starts looking the same, particularly with content marketing. In England, in the UK, and USA, content marketing is a massive, massive thing at the moment. And I was presenting at a big global technology company recently, and their marketing department is now called the content and marketing department. It's content first, marketing second. So content is everything, and marketers are producing more and more and more content, but so much of it looks the same. So much of it is so similar. It's white papers, it's research, and it gets boring. There's so much noise. You can't see the true message for all of the noise that's happening. And as people produce more content, this challenge becomes worse and worse. It becomes harder and harder to stand out. So so we find that sometimes our content is kind of commoditized. And brutalization. Now, I think you all know who this guy is, right? This is the accountant. This is the finance guy, right? And this guy, all he wants to know about is return on investment. Is ROI the expression that you would use in France? Okay, so ROI it's the number one thing for these guys, and they don't care about how beautiful your marketing is, or how exciting it is, or how many people it touched, or how many awards it won. All they care about is whether it actually delivered return and money for them. And these guys, since the recession, since the 2008, 2009, these guys become more and more important, and their message of ROI became more and more important. And what happened is that the mantra, the doctrine of B2B marketing became, if you can't measure it, don't do it. So everything else, everything that wasn't measurable stopped or was reduced. So measurement became absolutely number one in everything that we do. And this worked for some people, and there's some good marketing came out of this. But I think there's some things that get lost as well. I don't know if any of you are like me who are old enough to remember the film Dead Poets Society. It was from the 1990s, and sadly Robin Williams died last year, I think it was. So he was a great actor, and it was very sad. This film came out when I was very young, and it was a great film. And there was a wonderful scene in this film. I don't know if you've seen the film, you may remember, where he's an English teacher talking to a class of students in America in the 1960s. And he's talking at the introduction to the literature book, and talking about how you can measure great poetry on a mathematical axis. And he says, rip this page out. Just rip the whole introduction out, because it's rubbish. It's nonsense. And I'm not saying that marketing is poetry. I'm not comparing marketing to Zola or Voltaire or Shakespeare. But I do think that there are some things that are lost when all you focus on is measurement. And I think that we will explore that a little bit more as we talk. And I think that the reason that things have changed, the reason that that we've had this focus really on ROI, one of the reasons is because in today's world the buyer is in control. So in the old world, your marketing, you were in charge of when you sent your messages out. But today, the buyer is very, very savvy and very sophisticated. And the buyer understands that he or she can access whatever information that they need whenever they need to. So they don't need to wait for you to send messages to them. They can access their information. So they're very, very, very knowledgeable when they make an interaction with you. And so they are in control of this exchange. It means marketing used to be on the front foot and in charge, and now it's on the back foot. It's more responsive to what the buyers want and buyers need. And I think that the best way to explain perhaps this change is that this came from this way of looking at things came from a conference I attended in America last year called the Business Marketing Association in Chicago. It's a fantastic conference. I would recommend, if you ever happen to be in Chicago in June, go to this conference because it's amazing. It's 1,000 people, and it's really amazing speakers from around the world. But there's a guy there talking about saying yesterday the previous era of marketing was the broadcast era. And this is not just talking about TV and radio. This is talking about any marketing where you're pushing out messages. So it's direct mail, it's email. You even could say it's exhibitions and events and things like that. It's about a marketer or a brand standing there and pushing messages out, lots of messages to individuals. And this means that the kind of messages that you're sending when you're doing broadcast marketing, you're trying to interrupt people. You are trying to say to them, stop what you're doing and listen to me, because what I have to say is really, really important. And so what often happens in that situation is that the messages are negative. They're about fear. They're saying, if you don't do what I'm asking you to do, you're in real trouble. You have to change what you're doing now and listen. So it's about scaring people into doing things. Not always, but a lot of the time, that's what it was. Now today, we're in a different era. Today, increasingly, we're in the social media era. Not all, and I don't know the situation with social in France, or how different it is to the UK, but in the UK certainly, everything is moving more and more towards social. Not everything is on social, but it's moving more and more. More of decision makers are using social media, more activities going through social, and there's still the other stuff is happening, still email, direct mail is happening, but social is becoming more and more important. And what that means is if you're designing your content to make people share it, the message is completely different. Because people don't share information or messages that are negative. They only share things that are positive. They share things which are cool or funny or interesting or even sexy. They shared a completely different set of things. And so if you want your messages to be shared and to be successful on social media, you have to make your messages interesting. You can't use the old fear messages because they just don't work anymore. So everything has changed. And I think that what really brought this made this stand out for me, this point, was there was a presentation at this conference by Karen Walker, who is the Senior VP of Marketing from Cisco, based in San Francisco, and she said that increasingly their marketing is about, they do ROI campaigns, they do measurable campaigns, but they also do other marketing which you cannot necessarily measure in the same way. And increasingly they're doing this kind of stuff. And it's about really high-end videos that are about brand and aspirational messages. And it's right down to things like sending cupcakes to people with their names on them. And why do they do it? Because people respond to it. People get engaged with it. And customer or emotional engagement is the #1 thing that they are really focusing on right now. And so what this means is that the mantra has changed. Instead of if you can't measure it, don't do it, it becomes if you can't make them feel it, don't do it. And I think this is really more and more where B2B marketing is going, because it moves away from the commoditized marketing that we've seen in the past. It's about making people really, really feel it. Now, if you are a cynic, if you're about logic, and forgive me, this is my cultural references. I brought up in the 1980s, and I had this guy was on TV all the time. This is Mr. Spock, and he is Mr. Logic. He is completely logical, has no emotion, and he says in B2B, if you're a buyer, you only make your decisions based on logic and rational, and there is no room for emotion anywhere in B2B marketing. It's ridiculous. So because we are dealing with serious products and services, not dealing with stupid, foolish consumer goods. But there's a study recently in America from the CEB, and the CEB, I don't know if you heard of this organization, but they produced a book called The Challenger Sale. Has anybody read the book called The Challenger Sale? It's a very, very interesting book, and it's a lot of salespeople are very excited about it. And even you guys even us marketers should read it possibly. So it created a lot of excitement, a lot of fuss. And what this showed is that actually, surprisingly, B2B brands had far more emotional connection. Let me see if I can get out of the way of this slide so you can see it, with consumers than B2B ones did. And this is, I think this is amazing. I think this is quite stunning. But in some levels, it's also quite logical, because if you are a customer of SAP, which is a great German product, then you have a huge reliance on them to make your systems work, and you need to have a deep connection with them. And the same with Deloitte, and the same with Oracle, with Cisco. You need these companies to make these products to make your businesses run and to make the whole internet run. So of course we have a deep relationship, but they're even more powerful than the relationship that consumers have with Apple. Now I'm an Apple fan. I've got the Apple iPhone, the iPad, the iBook, and I'm even going to go and buy the iWatch because I'm a stupid idiot. But I can agree with this completely, that nothing, even Apple with its power of this brand, is nothing compared to FedEx, and even Oracle, which has sometimes is an organization which has huge power. It's incredibly powerful. So Apple it doesn't compare with the power of the B2B brands. And what's more interesting here is that they said there's two types of brand benefits in B2B that businesses can connect with individuals. And the first type is a business value, and these are things like functional benefits, like does it make things more efficient? And the second one is business outcomes. So am I going to sell more? And these are the kind of things these are the kind of brand connections that people can have. And these are the things that will drive consideration for your products and service. But the other type of brand benefit is about personal value. And these are things like professional benefits, e.g., am I going to get promoted if I buy this product or service? Is this actually going to enhance my career? Social benefits. Am I going to look cool if we buy this thing? And sadly, we may pretend it's not, but it's quite important to a lot of us. Emotional benefits. Am I going to feel confident when I go home at night that I've made the right decision for my company? And these things these are personal, emotional values, and these things are over twice as important in driving purchase in business products and services. Again, I'll get out of the way so you can take a photograph of that if you want to. I can share these slides. But also, not only that, they said, just to finish up on this, they showed that there is for those people who actually are prepared to pay, who do see a personal value, they're actually prepared to pay a higher price they're prepared to pay a premium price for those products where they see a personal value. So clearly there's a very, very strong link between emotion in B2B and buying. So it's very, very powerful. So I'm going to have to probably rush through a little bit. I don't know how I'm doing for time at the moment. Hervé, how am I doing?
It's okay, I still have 10 minutes.
About 10 minutes, okay. So I think emotion in B2B, there are an awful lot of emotional states in B2B that we can all exist in. And I think that it's very interesting that these emoticons or emojis, do you use these words in France? So it's very interesting that these things even exist, because why they exist is to do exactly what I said at the beginning, to help explain the emotion of the person who is sending the communication, because the person receiving it might not understand what state they're in. We've all had the situation where we have sent an email to somebody and we've meant it to be friendly and nice or straightforward, and actually the person receives it, thinks that he takes it in a completely different way and is quite offended by it. And a lot of my colleagues, my younger colleagues, will always put a smiley face at the end of an email, just because they know they say they're like 30% more likely for the person to do what they're being asked to do because they put a smiley face on it. It's kind of ridiculous, but it's really true. We all need to show these emotional states. You know, and this is a Plutchik wheel which shows the different emotional states we can be in and we can get into, and it shows there are different levels of states for different types of emotions, and I think really I put this in because it looks pretty, not because it really says anything very profound, but it's a lovely chart, so I wanted to put that in there. And this is a list of all the positive emotions which you can have. These are English words to them, obviously. And there's lots of very wonderful words like that. And it's interesting that some of these words could be seen as negative in some situations. They could, like, things like lust isn't always a positive thing, but this is a list of positive emotions. And it's interesting that they're actually, you can't see a lot of these because it doesn't come out here, but there are actually more negative emotions than there are positive ones. So I think that's quite interesting in itself. But I just wanted to rush through a little bit on some of these, because I put some consumer examples of B2B of marketing campaigns there. I didn't mean to linger on that one, because this is for a previous time I presented this, and I had more time to talk. But I want just to talk a little bit about some campaigns which we've seen which drive emotion in B2B marketing. And this is one that won from our B2B Awards last year, and it won Campaign of the Year, and it was talking to people who are buyers of mainframe computers. I'm not sure if a mainframe is a word that's a common word in France, but these are renowned as very, very slow, outdated technologies, inflexible, and they were trying to illustrate that that these platforms were much more flexible and actually could do things that were unexpected. So they had these beautiful works produced of these large animals doing crazy things in environments that are unexpected, and that was all about driving surprise for people and showing getting people to see things that are unexpected. HSBC's campaign, HSBC's been running this very long campaign about global and local banks and taking related images from parallel objects and putting them together to demonstrate that they are truly expert as being an international organization. And it was trying to get over the fact that people are more likely to get divorced than they are to change their bank, which is quite terrifying. But this campaign has been was very, very successful for them over the years, and it's about trust. It's about saying, you can trust us, we can do this job for you, we can make this work. This campaign is, for me, it's very hard to see what this is from here, but this is from a company called Maximizer, and they're an e-commerce platform. And this campaign is really just a slide share. And I would urge you to go and look at this because it's absolutely brilliant. It's one of the most expensive slide shares ever. It cost about £20,000, but it's brilliant. It delivered them in tremendous return on investment and tremendous hits and impact. And the excitement they can create and the interest they can create just on flat PowerPoint slides is just incredible. So please go and have a look at this. It's been developed and reused over the time, and they've continued and extended this content further forward. But if we're going to talk about emotion in B2B marketing, the one we have to talk about is Volvo, obviously. And I'm sure we've all seen this commercial. If we haven't seen it, please do and go and Google it. I think it's been viewed by over 100 million people in the world. And I think the true test of the success of this campaign is the fact that is the number of times people have done a joke, a parody on it, and you see hundreds of these parodies where different people pretending to be in the Volvo adverts, and it's a truly amazing piece of marketing. It's one of the best B2B campaigns I've ever seen. But it's interesting about this is that Volvo went on a real journey with this. They didn't say, hey, we're going to come up with this from nothing. They went on a real content journey, and this is the 7th video they produced, and each one got better and better and better, and they learned how to make video really work for them as a form, and it shows that it's really worth the journey. So I wanted to just close, really, just start to wrap up on some things that I think that we need to do as marketers to think more emotionally. And before I do that, I wanted to, there's a negative aspect to all this, which is a topic called behavioral economics, which says that sometimes people don't always, they will claim they'll make a decision for very rational, logical reasons. And the reality is that actually they've made a set of, the decision they've made is for a set of emotional reasons. They will basically lie to you about why they've done what they've done. So behavioral economics is a very interesting emerging science, and it makes doing emotional marketing more difficult. It makes analyzing and understanding customers more difficult, but it's something which is definitely worth doing. It's worth exploring, and there's some fantastic books on behavioral economics. So the first thing is that you really, really need to understand your customers today, in today's world, much more than you ever did in the past. You know, the challenge for customer insight previously was about knowing where they lived, knowing who they were, knowing what their email address was, and maybe knowing what they previously bought. In today's world, we have to understand their deepest aspirations and their inner psychology. We have to get much, much deeper into what they think and how they want to behave to really understand them, to sell effectively to them. So there's a much bigger challenge around customer insight. The second thing is that we need to tell stories, not just create content. Content marketing is a really, really important discipline, and I hope everyone is really embracing this because it's very powerful. But I think that just creating more and more white papers and videos of your CEO talking into camera in a very boring way is not really going to change the world. What we have to have is stories, and we have to develop narratives. And this was trying to say, sit around the campfire and talk about things, and we need to recapture that spirit of telling stories and really connecting with people, engaging with people. And that is difficult. It's a struggle, but we have to do it to be successful. We have to believe in our brands. We have to invest in our brands. We can't just do activity which is ROI focused and which is looking short term. We need to understand that it's the brand that people have the relationship with, and we need to commit to that. It may mean that we spend money actually on brand connections, or it may be that we have an objective to drive better brand communications as part of our ROI marketing, but we have to be mindful of the power of our brands and always commit to that. And we have to take risks, because in today's world, we know that what worked yesterday isn't going to work tomorrow. It's probably not even going to work today. So we've got to keep experimenting and trying new things. And that can be difficult because everyone's got big targets to hit, and everyone's busy, and often new stuff looks really intimidating and daunting. But we have to try it, and we have to make sure we do new things. Google's rule, where they give their staff 20% of their time to do things which don't directly relate to their everyday projects, is a very good way of doing that. We need to harness the enthusiasm of the younger members of the team and get them to experiment with things, because they're better at that. And the final thing really is to be passionate. I think that no job was ever worth doing if you couldn't be passionate about it. And B2B marketing certainly is something we can get passionate about. And the best marketing is the marketing where the people who created it are passionate about what they're doing and why they're doing it. So just to sum up, really, I think there's more and more content being produced, and it's getting harder to compete. And marketing platforms are going to become more commonplace. So there is an early adopter advantage, which is going to disappear. And there'll be newer and nimbler brands who are better adapted to the digital age. So I really believe there is a praise for emotion in B2B marketing and in business generally. And I wanted to say thank you very much for listening. It's been great to talk to you today.
Thank you very much, Joel. Thank you.